I'm Sophia Hayes, a 31-year-old pediatric nurse in Texas. Thanksgiving. My sister Claire's $460,000 wedding was all they talked about. Meanwhile, my phone held the $170,000 bill to save my son, Ethan's, life. I finally asked for the help they so easily spent. My mother's response, dripping with entitlement, "We don't have that kind of money, Sophia. Be realistic." My son's life, judged less valuable than a floral budget. When your own family refuses to save your child, how do you find the strength to fight the battle alone? And what price does justice demand years later? I spent my days as a pediatric nurse, a soldier against death, saving the asset most families cherish, their children. My skill kept tiny hearts beating. The irony? I was a lifesaver who couldn't save her own son for $170,000. At home, I was just Sophia, a single mother battling debt and medical complexity. Ethan was my only legacy. I was determined to give him a future, but my family's rejection showed me that my love was a solo mission, without their approval. They lived by entitlement. I lived by the clock. While they planned Claire's luxury asset, her wedding, I calculated every penny to avoid absolute financial pain. This gulf in our dynamics fueled my fierce determination. When your own blood dismisses your child's life as a mere problem, how long can you tolerate their judgmental dynamics before that isolation turns into cold, strategic revenge? In the Hayes house, Claire was the asset, the golden child defined by effortless entitlement. I was the debt, the reminder of their less-than-perfect legacy. Claire's life was built on their approval, mine, on endless determination. Every family gathering was a subtle show of rejection. My skill and long hours saving lives were dismissed as too serious. Their priorities were clear: image, luxury, and avoiding the complexity of a sick grandson. My pain grew, quiet and invisible. They lived in a bubble of superficial dynamics, where conditional love was the only currency. My purpose was clear: to protect Ethan and myself from their emotionally bankrupt legacy, even if it meant planning a future of total solvency without them. When your own parents prioritize vanity over a heartbeat, how do you transition from accepting that rejection to planning the most calculated act of revenge imaginable? Their rejection was a clarity. They taught me their conditional love was a form of debt I'd never pay. I stood next to Ethan's bed, looking at his small, struggling heart monitor. I swore that $170,000 would be found. My purpose shifted from seeking their approval to absolute self-determination. I became a machine of precision and determination, double shifts, grant applications, and a fierce maternal power no amount of entitlement could crush. But even with that fierce determination, can one single mother's skill and effort truly overcome the financial and emotional debt of a lifetime of rejection? I swallowed my pride. I presented them with the hospital report, showing them Ethan's tiny heart and the precision required. I begged, not for approval, but for a loan to cover the $170,000. It was the hardest debt I'd ever faced. My mother, Martha, actually laughed. "Sweetheart, we just committed $460,000 to Claire's wedding. You can't fix everything, Sophia. You're a nurse, not a miracle worker. This medical complexity is your problem." Her entitlement was breathtaking. My father added the final, cruel blow. "Don't make your son's illness everyone's problem. Learn some self-determination. We're protecting our asset, our image." I walked out shaking, the word rejection echoing louder than the wedding plans. When you're hit with that level of calculated rejection, do you break down, or do you channel that profound pain into a cold, unbreakable determination? I converted my pain into fuel. Double shifts at the hospital blurred into nights applying for charity debt relief. My determination was the only thing keeping me upright. Every patient I saved was a reminder of the one heart I had to save. I began liquidating my few assets. My old car was sold. My savings account, which was my future legacy, was emptied. $170,000 was a mountain, but the memory of their cruel rejection gave me the skill to climb it. I slept in hospital waiting rooms, but never lost focus. Ethan's small, brave smile was my source of power. I was fighting for his life with cold precision and pure love. Their entitlement was now irrelevant noise. But when you pour every ounce of skill and determination into a life-or-death financial battle, what happens when even that isn't enough to pay the ultimate debt? I won the hospital's Compassion Award. My skill and determination were recognized, my precision saved lives. My professional legacy was growing, built on genuine power. My parents didn't call. They were too busy approving $460,000 tablecloths. That same day, Claire posted a picture of her wedding ring. The caption, dripping with oblivious entitlement, "True happiness is priceless." That word, priceless, cut deeper than any knife, highlighting the cost of my son's life. I realized I no longer needed their approval or their conditional love. Their world was a shallow dynamic of assets and appearances. My world was defined by tangible pain and the fierce determination to pay a $170,000 debt myself. The emotional disconnect was complete. When the emotional debt is paid in full, and all you have left is your own determination, what terrifying turning point awaits you at the center of the main conflict? I was working a third double shift, reviewing Ethan's complex charts. The pain from my family's rejection was heavy, a constant emotional debt. I felt entirely alone, fighting both a medical complexity and a financial one. A regular hospital donor, Mr. Davies, saw me break down. He was quiet, but his kindness was a powerful asset. He didn't offer money, but he offered something more valuable: validation of my skill and determination. "The people who abandon you," he said, "they don't reflect your worth, Sophia. They reveal their own lack of solvency, their emotional bankruptcy." That expertise, that cold, hard logic, was a revelation. His words became my new legacy. My fight was no longer about gaining their approval or settling a family score. It was about achieving ultimate self-determination, using my own power to build a future free from their toxic dynamics. With this newfound clarity and an unbreakable determination, Sophia had the map to self-determination. But was it too late to win the ultimate battle against both medical complexity and family rejection? I let myself imagine the solvency of a healthy future. Ethan running, not tiring, his smile, not shadowed by pain. That image became my most valuable asset, the blueprint for the legacy I was fighting to build. Ethan, completely unaware of the financial complexity or the family rejection, drew pictures of us by the ocean. His unconditional love was a constant reminder that my fight was just built on pure power, not their toxic entitlement or approval. Hope was no longer passive. It was driven by cold precision. I researched every grant, every charity, using my analytical skill like a corporate lawyer closing a deal. I needed $170,000. My determination broke the goal down into manageable debt segments. But sometimes, at night, the pain of the missing funds would choke me. I felt the weight of the financial debt looming over my son's life. The fear was a silent complexity only I carried. The surgery date was set. The goal of $170,000 was so close, yet still so far. Did my family decide to offer an 11th-hour approval to clear their conscience, or did they allow the silence of their entitlement to define the ultimate, heartbreaking conflict? The surgery date was locked in. My ultimate deadline. I had secured nearly half the $170,000. My determination had won small victories, but the remaining debt felt like a countdown clock ticking against Ethan's fragile heart. Meanwhile, Claire's luxury bridal shower dominated my social feed. $460,000 wasn't just money, it was a lavish display of entitlement and conditional love. They were celebrating an asset while I was fighting a medical complexity. My father called, not about Ethan, but to remind me to attend the shower for family unity. I swallowed my pride. I realized my final power was not asking again. I would face this debt alone, fueled by their cold rejection. I was running on sheer determination. I calculated that if I missed one shift, or if a grant fell through, the solvency of the entire plan would collapse. This financial pain was more terrifying than any medical complexity I'd faced as a nurse. They insisted on a small, pre-Thanksgiving dinner, purely for appearances. I knew this was their final chance to offer approval without being asked. I saw it as my final test of self-determination against their toxic dynamics. At the dinner, I was barely acknowledged. My mother sighed loudly. "You always bring problems, Sophia. Can't you just pretend to be normal for one night?" Claire toasted to a perfect family. That insult was the final blow to my emotional solvency. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I simply stood up. The battle for their approval was over. I was walking away, carrying my own legacy, the fierce love for my son. I let go of hope for them and found a terrifying new strength. I had finally gained solvency from their toxic dynamics. But when the biggest conflict arrives, the moment you realize your strength is not enough, what price does a mother pay, and what cold, hard justice will she ultimately demand? The pre-Thanksgiving dinner was staged perfection, crystal, silver, and my mother's fake smile. It was their final, calculated attempt to maintain the family legacy of flawless appearances, despite my very real financial complexity. I sat there, invisible. Every word about Claire's $460,000 asset, the wedding, was a subtle, continuous reminder of my $170,000 debt. My father avoided my gaze, unable to face the pain of his own moral solvency breakdown. Then, the inevitable blow came. My mother sighed dramatically, looking straight at me. "You always bring problems, Sophia. Can't you just pretend to be normal for one night? Your determination is exhausting for the rest of us." Claire, oblivious in her bubble of entitlement, raised her glass. "A toast," she chimed, "to a truly perfect family that always supports each other." Her words felt like a physical assault, a final, public mockery of my emotional debt. That was the breaking point. I didn't cry because of their rejection, I cried because I finally accepted the truth: they would never offer approval. My fight for solvency had failed the moment I sought their help. Their love was purely conditional, based on appearance and obedience to their toxic dynamics. They preferred to protect their financial asset and Claire's vanity than to invest $170,000 in their grandson's life. My battle for their approval was over. I stood up, my shaking hands gripping Ethan's small photo. I finally let go of hope for my parents, a necessary surgical act of self-determination to preserve my own soul. I walked out in silence, leaving the crystal and the expensive tablecloths behind. That night, holding Ethan's hand, I found a cold, terrifying new power. It wasn't the power to save him, but the power to demand justice for him. They thought their final word was "be realistic." They were wrong. Their final word would be a massive debt of regret I was planning to charge them years later, payable with $180,000 and the hard precision of truth. The fight for Ethan's life continued, but the hope for my family had died. What terrifying and inevitable tragedy did this ultimate rejection lead to, and how did that pain forge the cold, precise determination required for the ultimate financial revenge? I left their house in silence, a walking rejection. The roar of my mother's entitlement and Claire's toast faded, replaced by the quiet, terrifying hum of the hospital. I was finally free of their toxic dynamics. That night, I sat by Ethan's side. I stopped wishing for their approval or their last-minute solvency. I had paid the emotional debt in full by realizing my legacy didn't need their signature. It was a surgical detachment, painful but necessary. Ethan's small hand gripped mine. His innocent love was the purest form of power I knew, built on honesty, not conditional asset value. His fight gave me the determination to continue my own solitary skill in financial warfare. I was running on empty. $170,000 remained an impossible complexity. I was a successful pediatric nurse, yet I slept in hospital waiting rooms, living on sheer willpower. The isolation was absolute. There was no safety net, only my own precision. I whispered to Ethan, "It's just us, baby." That phrase wasn't a lament, it was an oath of self-determination. I would face the upcoming pain and final conflict alone, defining my own legacy through unconditional love. Every grant application was met with another cold rejection. I calculated the remaining shortfall down to the last dollar, using the same fierce precision I used for medication dosages. The numbers mocked my determination. A text from my mother, Claire had her final dress fitting. $460,000 well spent. I looked at the monitor showing Ethan's heart rate. The extreme, sickening dynamic of their priorities became my cold comfort, the full price of their entitlement. I accepted the finality of my isolation. There would be no miracle rescue, no sudden approval from the Hayes family. It was just me, my skill, my love, and the terrifying knowledge that I might not win this debt battle. And in that darkest moment, the seed of revenge was planted. Not for money, but for justice. I wanted them to feel the cold, hard precision of what their $460,000 party cost me. I needed them to face the truth of their moral debt. My love for Ethan hardened into a warrior's resolve. I was no longer a victim seeking approval. I was a force of determination, focused on the immediate complexity and the ultimate, cold precision of my future legacy of payback. I kissed Ethan's forehead. He smiled, a tiny gesture of pure love. That moment, that final, fragile asset of unconditional joy, was what I carried into the inevitable, heart-wrenching conflict ahead. I closed my eyes, accepting the looming pain. The only thing left was the fight for his life, and the promise that if the fight was lost, the debt they owed would be paid back with absolute precision and unforgettable power. What happens when a pediatric nurse, armed only with fierce determination and absolute love, loses the battle against financial complexity? That pain was the price of their $460,000 wedding, and it was the fuel for the most shocking, precise act of justice the Hayes family would ever face. Are you ready for the climax? The morning of the surgery was cold. I held Ethan, knowing I was short $170,000. My fierce determination had failed against their entitlement. The doctor spoke of risks, the medical complexity overwhelming my skill as a simple nurse. I gave him a final kiss, a desperate plea for his solvency. I told him my love was his ultimate asset. Then, I watched them wheel him away. I stood alone, the silence deafening, realizing this financial debt had cost us everything. Hours later, the chief surgeon came out. His face was grave, etched with pain. He spoke in a cold, clinical tone of an unexpected complexity, a necessary pause. The surgery was interrupted. The $170,000 was now the difference between life and death. In a final, desperate move, I called my father. "It's $170,000 now, Dad. It's the only way to finish." He answered, "You're disruptive, Sophia. We're busy with Claire's legacy. This isn't our debt. Deal with your own rejection." Click. I returned to the board. The status changed. Then the sound came, that single, long, continuous note that ends a world. The sound of a final, irreversible rejection. My fierce determination was extinguished by pure financial cruelty. The world went numb. The pain was absolute. I walked into the room. He was peaceful. My heart, filled with unconditional love, shattered into a million pieces. Their $460,000 party now had a price tag, my son's life. The tears stopped immediately. In place of grief, a cold, hard precision took over. My love for Ethan became a quest for justice. My new legacy would not be sorrow, but a chilling, relentless power directed at the Hayes family's entitlement. They had valued their asset, their image, over Ethan's life. They chose entitlement over love. Now, I would use my skill and determination not to save, but to dismantle. I would ensure they paid their moral debt with absolute precision. The funeral was held with no family present, save for me. That day, the old, seeking Sophia died. A new, terrifying dynamic was born, one driven by cold power, ready to use every asset and every skill to achieve ultimate solvency. The tragedy was the price of their rejection. Now that Sophia had nothing left to lose, how did she spend the next 10 years honing her skill and precision, preparing to pay back the Hayes family's moral debt with an absolute, unforgettable justice? 10 years passed. 10 years of silence. The pain became a cold, hard asset, fueling my ambition. I traded my nurse scrubs for a CEO's suit, my skill in saving lives for the precision of financial destruction. I visited Ethan's small stone. There was no visible grief, just a deep sense of determination. My promise to him was my new legacy. Their $460,000 wedding was the cost. My success was the debt they would soon have to repay. My new profession as a financial analyst demanded absolute precision and strategic skill. It was a game of power where money was the ultimate asset. I had built total solvency, making myself untouchable by their toxic dynamics. I kept track of the Hayes family, but maintained complete rejection of contact. Claire's marriage, built on entitlement, was struggling. Their real estate assets were over-leveraged, exposed to financial complexity. My plan wasn't vengeance fueled by pain, but justice achieved with clinical precision. I wanted them to understand the price of $170,000, not through love, but through the destruction of their false legacy and image. I made my first move. A quiet, untraceable investment into the same holding company that exposed their biggest asset. My power was now in the background, a silent predator operating with absolute precision. I accepted my new role, the architect of their downfall. There was no room for their approval or pity. My life was defined by self-determination, a path paved with the bricks of their rejection. My moral debt was paid when I walked away. Now, it was time for them to pay their financial debt. I wanted their panic, their realization that their shallow entitlement had finally cost them everything. The plan was set, the execution was inevitable. But what precise moment did Sophia choose to strike, using her terrifying new skill to turn the Hayes family's greatest asset into their most crippling financial debt? My office was high above the city, a testament to 10 years of cold determination. My skill for triage, perfected in the ER, was now applied to complex corporate dynamics. Every major deal was a step toward ultimate solvency, built on the bedrock of my pain. I specialized in corporate turnaround, dismantling failing structures with surgical precision. My reputation grew, ruthless, emotionless, a guaranteed asset for investors. I wasn't seeking their approval, I was demanding their respect. The Hayes family legacy was slowly decaying. My father's property empire, built on pre-2008 entitlement, was struggling with unforeseen financial complexity. I knew the exact timing of their vulnerable debt exposure. Claire's life, that golden asset they protected, was falling apart. Her husband had left, her $460,000 wedding was a painful memory. She was now drowning in the same type of debt and rejection she had mocked. The time was approaching to collect the final payment for the moral debt they owed me. I had $1.8 million in liquid assets. I needed $180,000 for the final move, 10 times the amount that would have saved Ethan. This wasn't hatred, it was the ultimate act of love for my son. I was using my power to demand justice, a cold, calculated justice that would finally shatter the illusion of their privileged legacy. I initiated the final phase. A series of precise short sales targeting the investment firm holding the Hayes family's largest property asset. I was leveraging their own complexity against them. The process brought me no joy, no relief from the pain. Only a chilling sense of duty. My determination was absolute. I was merely an operator, executing a long overdue accounting of their moral bankruptcy. I knew the exact moment my father would call, pleading for help. I had the skill, the power, and the solvency to save them, but I also had the legacy of Ethan's grave. The phone was about to ring. The Hayes family was finally trapped in the exact financial complexity I had planned. Would my father's desperate plea for approval break my cold determination, or would I deliver the absolute, $180,000 justice I'd spent 10 years crafting? The day came. I summoned them to the conference room, where their fate would be decided. My precision was absolute, my demeanor a wall of ice. My father, desperate for solvency, still reeked of condescending entitlement. Sophia, thank God. We need your skill. We're facing a technical complexity, a simple cash flow problem. You're our last asset. We need $1.8 million to protect the family legacy, sweetheart. We always knew you'd find power. If you do this, we'll finally offer our full approval. This is your chance to redeem your past debt to the family dynamic. You need $1.8 million? That's what you owe, not what you need. And no, Martha, I'm not looking for your approval. I'm here to collect a debt that's 10 years overdue. I projected a slide, the OR board from 10 years ago. Then, a new total appeared, $170,000. 10 years ago, that small figure was the cost of my son's life. The price of your rejection, the $1.8 million you owe? That's not a cash flow problem. That's the financial complexity I engineered. I bought up your mortgage-backed securities when they hit rock bottom. I used my nurse's skill for precision. I didn't save lives, I dismantled assets. I shorted your biggest property, leveraging your own debt exposure. I have the power to save you, Robert, but I choose justice. That wedding, all that money, we could have saved him. The pain finally pierced her entitlement. The realization that her $460,000 party was literally Ethan's execution. I stood up, taking in their devastation. Their fake world, built on rejection and asset protection, was gone. My revenge was complete. I walked out, leaving the sound of their despair echoing in the room. I had achieved ultimate solvency and justice. I had reclaimed my power. But walking away, I felt nothing but cold emptiness. The debt of my pain was paid, but Ethan was still gone. They lost their legacy, their assets, and their entitlement. Robert and Martha ended up in a tiny condo, dependent on Claire, who was bankrupt. The ultimate irony, they became exactly what they feared. The Ethan Hayes Children's Heart Fund saved hundreds of lives, children whose families couldn't handle the medical complexity or financial debt. That was my true legacy, built on love and cold, hard determination. The Hayes family learned that entitlement is not solvency. That love is the only true asset. And that the precision of a mother's pain can destroy an empire built on rejection. The Hayes family was ruined, Sophia had her justice, and Ethan's legacy lived on. But when a mother achieves such cold, calculated revenge, is her debt of pain truly paid, or is the solvency of her own soul forever tainted by the immense power she wielded? You witch! You let your own son, die to punish us? You have no love. You destroyed our legacy, you destroyed his life with your entitlement. I fought, I begged, I swallowed every piece of pain. But you chose a $460,000 tablecloth over his heartbeat. You signed his death warrant. Here are the terms for the $1.8 million debt I own. You will liquidate everything. The yacht, the house, the vacation asset. The total proceeds, all of it, will go to the Ethan Hayes Children's Heart Fund. No. Robert, you can't. That house is our legacy. Sophia, please, I'll give you my approval. I'll tell everyone you're a hero. Your approval is worthless. I achieved self-determination the moment I walked away 10 years ago. The fund will ensure that no child dies because of their family's financial complexity or moral debt. You're still a failure, Sophia. A nurse who got lucky. You'll never be one of us. He couldn't drop the entitlement, even as his world crumbled. I used my $180,000 for the final short sale. That's the extra $10,000 I saved, precision you never had. Consider the interest on your moral debt paid. You have 48 hours to vacate the premises. The morning after the meeting, I expected relief. Instead, I felt a chilling emptiness. I had achieved financial solvency and ultimate power, but the moral debt remained. The pain was subdued, not gone. My family's downfall was public, precise justice. They lost their final asset, their reputation. The irony of their $460,000 entitlement now funding a children's charity was the only solace my cold determination allowed. I went to the cemetery. I didn't need their approval to talk to him. Your name is saving lives, my little asset. Your legacy is built on love, not on their toxic corporate dynamics or conditional skill. The Ethan Hayes Children's Heart Fund launched. I chose to step back, recognizing that operating the charity was a different kind of complexity. My part was to finance it, now others would use their skill to heal. I had destroyed them financially, but I couldn't destroy the memory of their ultimate rejection. The cold indifference still burned hotter than any market triumph. The biggest emotional debt was still mine to carry. The Hayes family was bankrupt, but Sophia's debt of pain lingered. Could she ever truly find personal solvency? Or would the power she wielded forever separate her from the normal love and simple self-determination she truly craved? The rhythm of peace was fragile. I focused on the fund, finding purpose in saving children from financial complexity. My life was driven by precision, not pain. I thought I had earned my solvency, a quiet legacy free from their toxic dynamics. A summons arrived. Not a threat, but a request for a neutral meeting. My father, desperate, was facing a new kind of debt, a sudden, serious medical complexity of his own. The irony was a bitter pill. The meeting was in a generic lawyer's office, but the backdrop was the public hospital where my father was a patient. No private wings. Their $1.8 million asset was gone, replaced by the harsh reality of their newfound debt. Sophia, we're asking for help. Not money. Robert needs a specialized skill, a surgeon only available through your hospital network. He needs your approval to get in. This was the ultimate test of my determination. Could I let the man who let my son die himself? My heart was cold, encased in 10 years of rejection. My justice was complete, but my ethical complexity was not. You once denied my son $170,000, fueled by your entitlement. Now, your life rests on my simple power to make a phone call. The dynamic has shifted completely, hasn't it, Martha? Robert sat in stunned silence. His legacy was ruined, his asset gone. He couldn't muster his usual entitlement, only quiet fear. He was stripped bare, reduced to the same desperate state I was in a decade ago. I stared at the floor. My self-determination was absolute. I had the right to walk away. But if I let him die, the pain would never truly achieve solvency. It would be another debt, only this time, mine. My nurse's skill screamed. I couldn't sacrifice my professional legacy for personal justice. My fight was for love, not murder. I realized precision meant healing, even when the patient was undeserving. I picked up the phone. I bypassed the approval process entirely, using my power to schedule the surgery. I did it not for Robert, but for the solvency of my own soul. I hung up without a word. Sophia. You saved him. Robert, she still loves us. See? The family dynamic is fixed. You finally won your approval. It's not love, Martha. It's a professional courtesy. I saved him for Ethan's legacy. You are still my ultimate rejection. Now, leave this office and don't call me again. I had paid their financial debt with justice, and now I paid my own ethical debt with skill. The power I wielded was both my salvation and my curse. It was a victory, but the final, quiet pain remained. Robert was saved. He lived, but without his asset or entitlement. He saw his moral debt reflected in his survival. He never called me again. The Hayes family dynamic was finally, irrevocably broken. Sophia chose love over justice, saving the man who ruined her life to gain solvency for her own soul. But now that the debt is paid, the family dynamic is broken, and the power is hers alone. What quiet, final chapter awaits a woman who built her entire legacy on the ashes of her pain. I went to the beach where Ethan and I had played. The sand was a canvas for a deeper truth. The need for their rejection or approval had vanished. My determination was now focused on love, not on settling an external debt. The greatest asset I ever had wasn't my financial power or my corporate skill. It was Ethan's unconditional love. That was the legacy I needed to honor, beyond the cold precision of my revenge. The pain had been a tool, a fierce dynamic that drove my success. But now, it was time to let the anger rest. I forgave myself for not being able to save him, realizing I had done everything humanly possible. The Hayes family's entitlement was gone, replaced by simple, human complexity. They were just people, flawed and terrified. My ultimate revenge was not their ruin, but my freedom from their toxic hold. My true solvency was achieved the moment I saved my father, choosing the moral high ground over personal justice. That single, ethical skill finally closed the loop on my decade of rage. The debt was truly paid. I walked into the funds office. It was no longer a monument to my pain, but a symbol of Ethan's continued love and my renewed self-determination. My legacy was now quiet, impactful, and fundamentally good. I learned that the most powerful form of precision isn't financial, it's emotional. The greatest power is choosing to heal, not hurt. My story is proof that love can conquer even the deepest family rejection. Sophia found solvency in her soul, using her power not for vengeance, but for a beautiful legacy of love. But what about the Hayes family? Did Robert and Martha ever truly grasp the meaning of entitlement, or did they fade away, consumed by the crushing weight of their ultimate moral debt? True solvency wasn't just about money, it was severing the final thread. I was in my lawyer's office, signing the documents to legally remove the Hayes surname. My self-determination was absolute. I was shedding their legacy. The memory of their rejection used to define me. Now, I saw their toxic dynamics as small and insignificant. I kept nothing, no photos, no inherited asset, only my own hard-earned power and my professional skill. My new dynamic was built on my own terms. My determination was pure. I didn't need their approval to be worthy, my value was inherent, defined by my love for Ethan and my work at the fund. I agreed to one TV interview. The topic was the fund, but the subtext was the debt they paid. The interviewer dared to mention the Hayes family's claim of entitlement to my success. The only thing the Hayes family contributed to my legacy was the $170,000 shortfall that killed my son. That figure, through my precision, became the $1.8 million donation. They are irrelevant. Their lives were defined by complexity, trying to maintain a facade of entitlement. My life is defined by simplicity, the ethical debt I owe to Ethan to ensure no child faces that same financial injustice. My revenge wasn't financial justice. It was the moment they realized their entitlement cost a life. That pain is their legacy, not mine. My legacy is saving lives, the camera held close on my face. No emotion, no hesitation. The woman they had rejected was gone. Only a woman of absolute determination and serene power remained. I was finally free. I used my nurse's skill not just to treat, but to diagnose the core rot of the Hayes family dynamic. My financial skill was merely the scalpel. My goal was always the health of my soul, achieving true solvency. I ended the interview by mentioning Ethan, my bright little asset. I never used his name for power, only for love. His memory was the quiet engine of my unwavering, righteous determination. Sophia stood alone, free from her family's rejection and defined by her own legacy. She found true solvency and love. But what final wisdom can we take from a story of a mother who proved that the ultimate form of justice requires not just financial precision, but the ethical determination to know when to finally let the pain go? 3 years after the final reckoning, the Hayes family dynamic was a ghost of its former self. Their asset was gone, and their lavish legacy reduced to a single, cramped condo. This was the long-term debt they had to face. Robert, once a man of unquestionable power and entitlement, now spent his days staring at the phone, waiting for a call that never came. His medical complexity meant he was utterly dependent on Martha, a profound rejection of his old self. Martha obsessively watched news clips of the Ethan Hayes Fund. The sight of Ethan's name, their ultimate rejection of him, was now her constant pain. Her search for approval had turned into a desperate need for forgiveness. Claire, financially bankrupt, lived nearby. She still blamed Sophia, but the crushing debt of her $460,000 wedding, which could have saved Ethan, finally pierced her entitlement. She had zero financial solvency and moral peace. Martha found an old photo, Sophia, young and smiling, holding baby Ethan. A forgotten asset from a time before their toxic dynamic destroyed everything. The innocence in the photo magnified their current pain. Robert saw the photo. His face crumpled. He asked for $170,000, Martha. It was nothing. We chose Claire's dress. We bought the tablecloth. Our determination was to reject her. That was our moral debt. I didn't think he'd die. I thought she was just being difficult, a drama. I saw it as a family dynamic, a test. I never grasped the medical complexity. That skill was hers, not mine. Claire walked in, carrying groceries. She saw the photo. I still dream about that wedding. The flowers. The music. The cost. It's the only thing I have left, and it's the source of all my pain. Our legacy wasn't the houses. It wasn't the entitlement. It was the three of us sitting here, knowing we traded a grandson's life for a temporary display of power. That's the real debt, if Sophia would just give us some approval, a sign of forgiveness. If she knew how much we suffered. She used her precision to hurt us, but we hurt ourselves more. The irony is, her fund is the only place we find comfort. Seeing those kids saved. It's the only real asset we have left of Ethan. It's her ultimate solvency and our constant reminder. They were haunted by the knowledge that the money was there, the skill was available, but the moral determination was lacking. That $170,000 was their life sentence. Their moral debt would never fully be paid. They lived their new normal, devoid of power, luxury, and the old toxic dynamic. Their existence was a quiet, perpetual apology. They finally understood the true cost of their entitlement. I never saw them again. I didn't need to. Their fate wasn't my concern, their realization was my justice. The greatest victory was their complete and utter rejection of their former selves. The fund, driven by Ethan's love and my renewed determination, continued to thrive. It was the only positive dynamic to emerge from that shattering pain and financial complexity. The truth wasn't about who won. It was about how entitlement breeds deep moral debt, and how true power lies in compassion and ethical precision. That was the final, hard-earned lesson. Robert, finally broken, used his last shred of determination to write a letter, addressed simply to the fund. No apology, just a small, anonymous donation, his way of paying a fraction of his moral debt. The Hayes family finally felt the true pain of their moral debt, forever stripped of their entitlement and power. But when a mother's determination results in such complete and utter justice, is the story truly over? Or does the legacy of Ethan's love and Sophia's strength simply begin a new, inspiring chapter? My life was defined by the fund's quiet purpose. The cold precision of finance was now applied to saving lives. I had achieved true solvency, not in my bank account, but in the community I built, free from their toxic dynamic. Dr. Anya Sharma, my old ER friend, walked into the office. She was the surgeon who had saved Robert. She used her skill for my father, but her love was clearly for me, bridging the decade of pain. I saw your interview, Sophia. You spoke with such precision and power. You don't owe anyone an explanation. And that man. Well, you chose the ethical asset over the emotional debt. I saw your mother, too. Her entitlement is gone. She looked scared. That's her own justice. You did what you had to do to protect your determination and Ethan's legacy. I received an email from Mr. Chen, a former rival investor who'd lost money when I shorted the Hayes asset. He requested a meeting at a local cafe. I expected blame, not a new kind of debt. Hayes ruined many investors with their financial complexity. Your skill was undeniable. You took them down with clinical precision. I'm here because I respect your determination. I want to invest in your fund. I see your legacy isn't about revenge, but about building ethical power. I trust your precision more than any Wall Street asset manager. These people saw my skill, my determination, and my love. There was no need for my mother's conditional approval or my father's habitual rejection. My new family was built on mutual respect and true solvency. I accepted Mr. Chen's investment, labeling it a community asset. It was the final, non-toxic exchange of power I needed. Every penny was a tribute to Ethan's memory, solidifying his living, breathing legacy. The intense pain of the past was now a quiet motivator. The memory of the $170,000 debt no longer fueled my anger, but my compassion. I was no longer defined by revenge, but by self-determination and ethical justice. I reflected on the Hayes family dynamic. They were trapped by entitlement and internal complexity. I was free because I recognized that true power lies in knowing when to build, not just when to destroy. Sophia found her new, true legacy built on love and ethical power, receiving approval and support from unexpected allies. But as her story reaches its final conclusion, what is the ultimate, hard-earned lesson about how to transform the deepest pain and largest moral debt into true, lasting solvency and genuine justice? 5 years. The fund was thriving. My journey from bitter pain to profound fulfillment was complete. I had achieved true solvency and established a positive legacy built entirely on my own determination and skill. We held a celebration for the fund's 5th anniversary. Anya, Mr. Chen, and the families we helped formed my new, healthy dynamic. There was genuine love and respect, none of the conditional approval I once craved. A woman approached me, tearfully. Mother, my son, Leo, is alive because of the fund. You gave me back my most precious asset. Her gratitude was the ultimate justice, a stark contrast to my family's entitlement. That moment was the final clearance of my emotional debt. I no longer cared about their rejection or their fate. My determination had brought healing, not just revenge. I was completely free. Emery Chen, Sophia, you solved a kind of human complexity Wall Street never touches. You weaponized your precision, then you used your power to create an ethical solution. That's true genius. Later, I visited Ethan's grave. I no longer felt pain, only quiet love. I gave myself the approval I never received. You were a good mother, Sophia. You built a life worthy of your son's memory. I accepted the toxic haze dynamic as a necessary part of my past, a difficult lesson in entitlement and moral debt. It taught me the true value of my own self-determination. I started teaching a course on ethical investment, using my skill to empower others. I was ready to pursue a life defined by growth, not by the trauma of their final rejection or my initial determination. My story proves that true power isn't about destroying your enemy's asset. It's about building a legacy so strong and good that their ruin becomes utterly insignificant. The cycle of pain and debt was finally broken. I had paid my dues to Ethan, to myself, and to the world. My solvency was absolute, my justice was pure, and my love endured. The Hayes family remains a cautionary tale of entitlement and moral complexity. Their tiny condo is a monument to their lost legacy and the $170,000 they refused to spend. Their pain is their own, and it no longer touches me. My life is my own asset, defined by my ethical determination. I am Sophia, the woman who took back her story with fierce precision and rebuilt it with quiet love. My skill will always be used for good. The financial precision I developed became the foundation for ethical justice. The nurse who couldn't save her son became the architect of a new legacy. The power of my transformation was complete. The love for Ethan was the single thread that ran through the chaos. It justified the pain, the power, the determination, and the final, beautiful solvency of a mother's heart. Every family has its toxic dynamic, its hidden debt. My story is a brutal reminder that entitlement has a price, and that true approval must come from within. Sophia found her ultimate solvency and built an enduring legacy on love, turning profound pain into power. But after witnessing this brutal, yet ultimately redemptive, story of family rejection and fierce determination, how do you define the true cost of entitlement in your own life, and what lasting debt must be paid for true justice? I had achieved emotional solvency, but one final thread of the past remained uncut. The site of Ethan's original, temporary burial, a piece of land the Hayes family owned and then lost, needed a symbolic act of rejection. I drove to the forgotten lot. It was overgrown, silent. It represented the raw, unadulterated pain of the beginning. The place where my family's financial entitlement met my personal debt. I carried a single, healthy sapling, my final asset of love. I was there to plant it, transforming the symbol of temporary loss into a beacon of enduring legacy. This was my true determination. As I dug, I realized I was performing this act purely for my own self-determination. I didn't need anyone's approval to mark this spot. It was a private ceremony for the mother and the son I couldn't save. The Hayes family dynamic was built on exclusion and conditional love. My new dynamic was built on inclusion, using my hard-won power and skill to nurture life, not exploit a weakness. I finally grasped the nature of my justice. It wasn't the financial precision of the takedown. It was achieving the moral complexity of saving the man who ruined me. That act completed my soul's solvency. Rest now, my love. The pain is over. The debt is paid. I am no longer fighting their rejection. I am simply living for your legacy. The sapling stood firm. A young, vibrant asset rooted in the place of death. It was a living, growing monument to the truth that love always prevails over entitlement. I walked away without looking back. There was no bitterness, no anger, just a deep, abiding sense of finality. The chapter was closed. I was an author now, not a victim of the Hayes dynamic. My future wasn't defined by the size of my asset or the length of my debt. It was defined by the simple, unwavering purpose of my ethical determination. My skill was my guide, my love was my power. And so ends the story of Sophia Hayes. A story of how family entitlement created a massive moral debt, and how one woman used relentless precision and hard-won power to pay it back, not to them, but to the world. The ultimate legacy is not wealth, it's impact. The ultimate justice is not revenge, it's peace. The ultimate solvency is not financial, it's the freedom from pain and the right to self-determination. We all face family rejection or a toxic dynamic. Sophia's life is a blueprint for taking back your narrative. Use your skill, find your determination, and never let anyone steal your most precious asset, your own sense of worth. This intense human complexity shows that revenge is a cold dish, but a positive legacy built on love is a feast that nourishes the soul for a lifetime. Choose your power wisely. So, after witnessing Sophia's journey from debt to solvency, ask yourself, if you were Sophia, would you have chosen justice through financial precision, or chosen the peace of ethical love when you had the final chance to walk away? 6 years. The Hayes dynamic was a distant nightmare. My solvency was now complete, a full, rich life where my determination focused on creation. The debt of the past was fully transmuted into the asset of the future. The Ethan Hayes Fund moved into a massive, light-filled office. The financial precision and skill I had honed for revenge now sustained a powerful legacy. I wielded power with compassion and ethical justice. I received an invitation, a charity event where the disgraced Hayes family would be present, begging for social approval. I didn't even look at it. Their rejection was utterly irrelevant to my self-determination. I met David at a fund gala. He saw the fire in my eyes, not the pain of my past. Our connection was built on shared values and genuine love. He became the unexpected, non-toxic asset in my new life. Dating again brought a new kind of emotional complexity. But this time, my determination was to be honest, not guarded. I spoke about Ethan, about the Hayes family's entitlement, and David listened without judgment. David, your legacy is not revenge, Sophia. It's what you built out of pure love. Their dynamic was their weakness. You turned their rejection into your greatest power. I heard that Robert was sinking further into his medical complexity. Martha's days were spent in silent regret. Claire's toxic entitlement kept her isolated. Their pain was a self-inflicted, perpetual debt. The incredible thing was, I felt no anger, only pity. Their fate was no longer tied to my determination. The past was a sterile lesson in finance and human skill, not an emotional prison. My ultimate asset wasn't the millions in the fund, it was the ability to look in the mirror and know my worth was non-negotiable. I had bought my freedom with precision and fortified it with love. David met Anya and Mr. Chen. The new family dynamic was instantly harmonious, built on respect for my determination and my legacy. There was no need for old, toxic approval. David's presence was a quiet reminder that life is about finding new assets after loss. I finally saw a future unburdened by the Hayes debt, a future of joy, not of forced justice. Close up on 2 wine glasses, clinking. I was home, truly home. The simple, non-material solvency I had longed for was mine, earned through my fierce determination to survive and thrive. I learned that the greatest power in life is choosing love over pain. My financial skill gave me the tool for justice, but my heart gave me the final, beautiful, and enduring legacy. Sophia's story is a universal one about escaping a toxic dynamic. She showed that you don't need rejection to define your life, you need self-determination and a healthy pursuit of your own ethical asset. Her precision was the key to financial solvency, but her love was the key to the soul's solvency. That's the difference between revenge and justice. But what did the Hayes family learn from their fate? Sophia built a new life, finally achieving complete solvency and finding true love. Her legacy is a testament to the power of self-determination. But as her journey concludes, and her old family fades into their self-made debt and pain, what lasting lesson does their dynamic hold for anyone still struggling to escape the shadow of family entitlement? We've reached the end of Sophia's brutal, yet redemptive, journey. Her story is a deep dive into the corrosive nature of family entitlement and the long shadow of emotional debt. I know many of you relate to the toxic dynamic she faced. Lesson 1. True power is not found in an asset or revenge, but in your ability to choose your response to rejection. Sophia used her financial skill to gain freedom, proving determination defines destiny. Lesson 2. Precision must be ethical. Sophia's ultimate justice came not from destruction, but from using her new power to build a legacy of love. She turned her greatest pain into the world's greatest good. Lesson 3. Solvency is spiritual. She found peace, not millions. Lesson 4. Claim your self-determination. You don't need conditional approval to be worthy. Sophia's journey teaches us that the highest skill is self-respect. Lesson 5. Address your complexity. Don't let your debt define your life. What's your take? Hit the comments. Have you faced this kind of rejection? Subscribe and ring the bell to see more powerful family revenge stories. Sophia's story is complete, but your reflection on it has just begun. Now that you've absorbed these 5 lessons on power, precision, and solvency, tell me, which one of the Hayes family's toxic dynamic, entitlement, rejection, or moral debt, do you think is the most common in family conflicts today?